Aloha everyone, this is Dr. BethAnne. I am an intuition guide and an author, and I do a thing on Fridays called Poetry and Perspective where I share a passage from one of my books and some thoughts and ideas behind that passage. So today I'm sharing from Freebird Fridays, and it's actually a really brief quote that I have to share. This is a fun book. It is composed of poetry and prose, and some of the pieces I did were more in a quote-like format. So we'll start with the quote, and then I will share some more ideas and thoughts. Whenever I begin to lose my way, I bring myself back to the question that is always my answer. My dear one, how do you best love yourself in this? When I wrote this book, I had been on this incredible self-love journey for a while. I had been really learning about what it is to love ourselves and how we do that. And I think love wears a million different faces. That's why it is so wild and mysterious and creative and ever evolving. And sometimes if I was feeling really lost or diluted, or like my energy was mixed up too much with somebody else and I didn't know where I stood, that's a real thing as an empath. We often, and just sensitive souls, we often can't figure out where do I end and where do you begin. If I ask myself the question, how do I love myself in this? What does that mean to me at this point in time? I was able to bring myself back to a more grounded space. And the thing that I love about that question is that your answer to it will change from situation to situation. Sometimes loving ourselves is setting a boundary and it's telling somebody no. Sometimes loving ourselves is, I don't know, I need a hot bath tonight and a cup of tea. I need a lot of comfort. Sometimes loving ourselves is an action step and we say, I'm really stuck, so I'm going to pick up the phone and call that therapist or coach or healer or whatever it is, and I'm going to actively work on getting some support for myself. Sometimes loving ourselves says slow down, be still, listen. It might tell us go to nature. It might tell us to take some time in our journal and listen to our intuition. The beautiful thing about this question is that there's no right or wrong. It's just a question that leads you deeper into the space of who you are and a deeper space of your understanding of your relationship with yourself and your relationship with loving yourself. And I really believe everything else stems from that. We are so much able to be present and healthy in our relationships with others when we are asking ourselves that question, and when we are working on loving ourselves, and when we are working on just really showing up and being present. We are able to be more present from anybody else in our life that represents a love relationship to us. And this book was really interesting because I wrote it, a couple things about it. One, I wrote it after I lost my brother, and this was the first tangible evidence that I was creating something new and beautiful from that loss. I felt really inspired to go collect all my old poems and to compile them in a manuscript. So it's the first book I ever wrote. And then the second piece is that the poems in the book explore love in many forms, and I had recently met my now husband during the time I wrote some of those. So the poems kind of trace this path of who am I and who is he and what is this and what is love in a bigger way and what is love of life and love of the universe and our spiritual love. It's all the ideas are in that. So I'm fond of the book because it just represents such a time and a space of becoming. But the way, for myself, I have navigated relationships and navigated not losing myself in somebody else or some other else or in the world is to be able to bring myself back to how do you love yourself through this? What do you need in this? So that is my exhortation and my inspiration for wherever you're at today. Ask yourself that question and then pay attention to what shows up. Just be present, notice it, observe it, and then think about how can you take one step, one aligned step with whatever came through that helps move you in that direction of love, and see what you experience. So I'm wishing everybody a beautiful Aloha Friday. It is actually my anniversary today. We've been married 4 years and together 6. We met on November 2nd. At mile 7.5 of the Silver Falls Trail Marathon in Oregon. So I will be doing fun things. And I hope you are doing something wonderful as well. And I'm sending lots of love, light, and aloha to each of you. Aloha Friday.